What if the future of electric cars wasn't being shaped in Silicon Valley or even in China, but in Africa? Imagine an energy revolution so bold, it could redraw the world map of technology and power. Today, we uncover how China's latest deal with Africa to produce self-powered EVs could flip the global auto industry on its head, and why Beijing is betting big on a future nobody expected. The electric vehicle race has always been dominated by a few familiar names: Tesla in the United States, BYD in China, and a handful of European giants. But behind the headlines, a new player is emerging: Africa. Long dismissed as a consumer market, Africa is now stepping forward as an innovator and manufacturer of revolutionary EV technology. And this time, China isn't competing against Africa. It's partnering with it. China recently struck a surprising deal with African nations to develop a fleet of self-powered EVs, vehicles that could operate independently of traditional charging infrastructure. For Beijing, this is more than just a technology grab. It's a strategic alliance. China sees Africa not only as a supplier of raw materials like cobalt and lithium, but now as a manufacturing hub and an innovation partner. With this deal, Africa becomes the assembly line of tomorrow's EV revolution. Unlike traditional electric cars, self-powered EVs promise freedom from charging stations. By integrating renewable systems, think solar panels, kinetic energy recovery, and advanced battery tech, these vehicles can recharge on the move. For China, this solves two major challenges: scaling EV adoption in regions without dense charging infrastructure, reducing reliance on Western technology for next-generation mobility. And for Africa, it's the golden ticket into the trillion-dollar EV race. Africa's involvement isn't just about labor or resources. The continent's engineers and startups have already been experimenting with off-grid, self-sustaining vehicles designed for environments where charging networks are scarce. By tapping into this innovation, China gains access to homegrown solutions perfectly suited for global challenges. Meanwhile, Africa secures investment, technology transfer, and a position as a future leader in EV manufacturing. This partnership sends ripples through the global auto industry. Tesla's dominance, Europe's push for sustainability, and America's race to catch up all now face a new competitor: the China-Africa EV axis. If successful, this deal won't just change how cars are made. It will shift where they're made and who controls the future of mobility. China's move into Africa's EV sector is not just about cars. It's about global influence. By aligning with Africa, Beijing is securing more than just production lines. It's building a strategic gateway to the rest of the developing world. If Africa becomes the manufacturing hub for self-powered EVs, these cars won't just roll across African highways. They'll be exported to Asia, Latin America, and beyond, regions where charging infrastructure is still weak. And who will control this new network of clean mobility? Beijing. This is not simply a car deal. It's a blueprint for global dominance in the next wave of green technology. Many are quick to assume Africa is only bringing raw materials to the table. But behind the scenes, African innovators are pioneering ideas that could outpace even Tesla's vision. Take, for example, startups in Nigeria and Kenya that are experimenting with solar-integrated EVs, or engineers in South Africa designing self-charging utility vehicles for rural and urban use. These breakthroughs are exactly what China wants: practical, resilient designs that can thrive in unpredictable environments. And by marrying Africa's ground-level innovation with China's massive industrial scale, the partnership creates a synergy the West has never considered. Now, let's step back and ask, how will the West react? Tesla has dominated headlines with its charging networks and battery tech, but what happens when charging stations are no longer necessary? Europe, meanwhile, has invested billions into charging infrastructure. If self-powered EVs take off, much of that investment could become obsolete overnight. And the US? With its EV ambitions already struggling to keep pace with China, this new Africa-China alliance could represent the final push that tilts the balance of EV leadership away from the West entirely. But the real story may be what this means for Africa itself. For decades, the continent has been locked in the role of resource supplier. exporting raw materials while importing finished goods. This deal changes the equation. For the first time, Africa is stepping into the driver's seat of high-tech manufacturing. Job creation, infrastructure growth, and technology transfer could transform Africa from a passive player into a global technology hub. If managed well, this could be Africa's industrial revolution, powered not by coal or oil, but by clean, self-sustaining technology. Behind closed doors, Washington is worried. U.S. policymakers see China's move in Africa not just as an industrial expansion, but as a strategic takeover. By controlling Africa's EV manufacturing, Beijing could also gain influence over trade routes, mineral supplies, and even political alliances. Some analysts in Washington warn that this is the new Silk Road, but on wheels. Instead of railways and ports, China is now tying nations together with fleets of EVs, powered not by gas stations, but by technology made in Africa for Beijing. If the U.S. doesn't act fast, it risks losing the EV race before it even fully begins. Across the Atlantic, Europe faces a different challenge. The EU has invested heavily in a massive charging infrastructure. Billions of euros have been poured into stations, batteries, and green energy grids. But here's the shocker. If self-powered EVs truly deliver on their promise, Europe's grand EV infrastructure plan could be rendered obsolete. European automakers like Volkswagen, BMW, and Renault suddenly find themselves caught in a dangerous gamble. Do they stick to their long-term charging model, or pivot late toward the China-Africa self-powered EV movement? The stakes couldn't be higher. Meanwhile, Africa stands at a crossroads. On one hand, the partnership with China promises billions in investment, jobs, and a chance to leapfrog straight into futuristic mobility. On the other hand, Africa must tread carefully. If it becomes too dependent on Beijing, it risks becoming locked into China's orbit, repeating old cycles of dependency, just in a new technological form. Some African leaders are already whispering, "Can we use this deal to gain leverage, not just for cars, but for broader independence in technology and trade?" This balancing act will decide whether Africa becomes a true global player, or just another gear in China's machine. Solar-absorbing car bodies that recharge under the sun. Kinetic systems that recycle energy from motion itself. Next-gen graphene and solid-state batteries that last far longer than lithium-ion. If these technologies scale, we're not just talking about cars. We're talking about an energy revolution that could spill into homes, industries, and even national power grids. And here's where the story takes its most dramatic turn, because the battle over these self-powered EVs isn't just about innovation anymore. It's about control of resources, of global markets, and even of the world's future energy systems. Africa is home to 60% of the world's cobalt reserves, massive lithium deposits, and rare earth minerals essential for advanced batteries. For decades, Western companies extracted these minerals and shipped them abroad, leaving Africa with little benefit. But now, China is rewriting the rules. Don't just sell us the minerals, build the technology with us. It's a masterstroke. By tying resource extraction to manufacturing and innovation, Beijing secures both supply chains and political loyalty. And suddenly, Africa is no longer just the mine. It's the factory and the laboratory. But the United States isn't about to sit quietly. Washington has already begun reaching out to African governments with counteroffers, investment promises, trade deals, even whispers of military aid. Don't put all your eggs in China's basket. U.S. proposals are slower, wrapped in bureaucracy, and lack the speed and scale of Beijing's offers. While Washington debates in committees, China is already breaking ground on EV plants across Africa. Time, it seems, is Beijing's greatest weapon. Meanwhile, in Brussels, EU leaders are realizing they may have underestimated Africa. Once viewed only as a supplier of raw materials, Africa is fast becoming a technological partner. The EU is now scrambling to launch new partnerships, offering funding for African universities, green tech startups, and renewable energy hubs. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Europe is years behind China's head start. And as African leaders watch the offers roll in, they suddenly find themselves in a powerful new position. The world is competing for their attention. For the first time in modern history, Africa isn't the pawn, it's the kingmaker. By choosing how to balance deals with China, the US, and Europe, African nations can shape the future of global energy. Imagine this: fleets of self-powered EVs designed in Africa, manufactured in Africa, and exported worldwide, not just under China's influence, but under Africa's own rising brand. This isn't just an EV story. It's a story about the rebirth of a continent's role in global innovation. And here's where it gets tense, such rapid transformation comes with risks. Rivalries are intensifying. Intelligence reports already hint at covert competition. Western companies lobbying African leaders to stall China's projects. Chinese firms racing to lock in exclusive mining rights. Local African entrepreneurs caught in the middle, fighting to keep ownership of their ideas. The battle for Africa's EV future is not just economic. It's becoming political, diplomatic, and even covert. And this is only the beginning. Because while the world argues about trade, resources, and alliances, the real secret lies inside the technology itself. A breakthrough so powerful, it could disrupt not just the car industry, but the very way humanity uses energy. Behind the glossy headlines and political deals, insiders are whispering about a game-changing breakthrough hidden within these self-powered EVs. It isn't just about solar panels or regenerative braking. The technology at the heart of this revolution is rumored to be a next-generation energy system, a hybrid of solid-state batteries, graphene supercapacitors, and microsolar absorption layers woven directly into the car's frame. This means the vehicle isn't just a machine. It becomes a moving power plant. A car that can drive, recharge itself, and even feed energy back into homes, businesses, or the grid, turning every vehicle into part of a continent-wide energy network. Interestingly, China has been silent about the details. No flashy press conferences, no overhyped announcements. Instead, Beijing has kept the project in low-profile secrecy, quietly funding research labs in Africa, securing patents, and locking in exclusive deals. Analysts believe this is intentional. By the time the West fully realizes the scale of what's happening, it might be too late to catch up. On the ground, African engineers and entrepreneurs are confident. They've been working in environments where innovation is born out of necessity. Imagine designing a car that can power itself in a village with no reliable electricity, or building a vehicle that can endure extreme heat in the Sahara or torrential rains in the Congo. These conditions forced African engineers to think differently, and now, those designs may prove more resilient than anything built in Silicon Valley or Berlin. In the Middle East, oil-dependent nations face a chilling realization: their economic lifeline could be cut. In Europe, automakers huddle in emergency meetings. And in America, policymakers debate whether it's already too late to catch up. The story of the self-powered EV is more than the story of a car. It is the story of nations rising, of alliances forming, of old powers shaken, and new ones awakened. China struck big, but in doing so, it helped ignite Africa's moment on the world stage. And from this moment forward, the future of mobility, and perhaps the future of power itself, will never be the same. Xiaototech, where innovation meets the road. The future of mobility starts here, only on Xiaototech. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more fascinating stories about Elon Musk, Maxwell, Tesla, and the future of innovation. Until next time, keep imagining the impossible.